All right, back with another redraft here. If you haven't seen one of these I've done before, I always like doing these. Very fun, always fun discussion. The way I view this is, so it's the 2020 draft, and what we're going to do is pretend the 2020 draft happened. Everything that happened was, real, but then all of a sudden Roger Goodell came back and said, you know what, let's redo that. So they're going to just, everyone still picks in the same order they picked, but all the players who were drafted in that draft are now available to be selected once again, similar to how, a regular draft works. So, all the teams that have made moves since then, you still have who you got. The Jaguars still have Trayvon Walker, but, now they don't have whoever they got in this draft. That's how it works. Without further ado, let's get into it. Number 1, Cincinnati Bengals. I'm still going Joe Burrow. Some would say Justin Herbert. I like Joe Burrow a little bit better. I do. I think Joe Burrow has shown a little bit more than Herbert has. I think that Burrow was incredible last year. I think he was really underrated last year. Maybe not in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he had some incredible games. And I just think that for Burrow, Burrow's biggest issue is that I think Zach Taylor holds him back. That's what I think. That's how I've always felt about that. Burrow is great. I would have him still 1-1 in this draft. Number 2, the Balls, also known as the Washington Football Team. Sure, Carson Wentz would be very upset to see that Justin Herbert takes his spot, but you know what? This just makes sense to do. You have a chance to get a superstar quarterback, still on a rookie deal. Go out and get the superstar quarterback. To me, picks 1 and 2 are obvious in terms of these should be the top 2. Maybe you can put Herbert 1 and Burrow 2, but it should be these 2 in the top 2 spots, I think, pretty clearly. Number 3, give me the Justin Jefferson here, who went a lot later in the draft than number 3, but I think the Lions would feel pretty good if they were able to get Justin Jefferson. Certainly, they'd rather him than Jeff Okudah, who they actually drafted. So, a lot could be better than that, but I think that adding Justin Jefferson here would certainly go a long way. He's a great player. The New York Giants drafted Andrew Thomas in the real draft, who's been great for them. That's not a bad pick whatsoever, but I think they can do better. And I especially think with A.J. Terrell, it's hard to get a franchise corner. You get someone who's been an all-pro in his second season. To me, that's just more valuable than an elite tackle. Again, part of that is a team-building exercise, but I do think that having an elite corner just will do wonders for your football team, and they could use a corner as well. And there's a lot of stuff they could use, really. But, you also have Evan Neal now, so you don't, tackle isn't quite as pressing of a need. Still would be without Thomas. But I just think A.J. Terrell I think that's a more difficult position to find in an elite corner than an elite tackle for me. The Miami Dolphins do not select Tua here. They instead get an offensive lineman, Tristan Wirfs, which this would just make their offensive line fantastic, I think. I think that you can find Tua-level prospects, out there. I don't think it's not so easy, right? Like, it is difficult, but I think I'd rather just have the elite tackle who, again, another guy who's an all-pro. Give me all-pros right here over someone of, like, Tua's caliber. That's how I view it. Sorry, Tuanon. The Chargers at number 6, I am going quarterback because they lost Herbert now. So, no Herbert. Got to figure something out. Jalen Hurts is a quality enough player where I feel like he can at least step in and do a decent job. I would think right off the bat, he is someone who, again, the Chargers have a pretty complete team, so they're trying to build around a young quarterback who's on a rookie deal. I think Jalen Hurts can potentially do that and potentially be a guy who can at least be a good enough quarterback where you have a real shot to compete if you have a great team around him, which the Chargers, not sure if they have a great team around him, but they would at least have a good team around him, and, he could do some damage. Number 7, give me Michael Onwenu, who was definitely a sleeper drafted by the Patriots. He can play anywhere on the line, which is nice because they need someone who can play everywhere. They don't really need a tackle at this point, though, so he can play interior, which would be nice. And they could just use another good offensive lineman. So for me, getting a chance to get Onwenu, who was such a steal for the New England Patriots, I would like to have him personally, even though Derek Brown, again, he's done some nice things for them, but I think Onwenu is the better player. Number 8, the Arizona Cardinals. Felt like Isaiah Simmons fell to them in the real draft. Maybe he hasn't quite lived up to the hype there, so they are instead going Andrew Thomas, who's, again, like I talked about, is a fringe elite tackle already after year 2, and he got so much better from year 1 to year 2. He could continue to improve. Big fan of Andrew Thomas, so this was a very hyped up tackle class, and certainly some of them have delivered on it. Number 9, the Jaguars drafted C.J. Henderson, who is no longer on the team already he was traded away to the Carolina Panthers. That was an Urban Meyer deal. They're getting T. Higgins instead, one of the real underrated receivers in this league, I think. Jamar Chase gets all the love there, and then maybe you'll talk about T. Higgins when you are just mentioning, Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. People will say that more than they'll say T. Higgins and then, alone in a sentence. But he's great. He can win on the outside consistently. He, I think, could be just a true number one for the Jaguars, who need that. They need someone who can just be like a deep threat on the outside for Lawrence. So I would go with T. Higgins here. Number 10, the Cleveland Browns drafted Jedrick Wills with their 10th overall pick. I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb, though. I feel like they could use another receiver. They're getting all the former Cowboys receivers in this scenario with this. I do feel like they could use another receiver. And like I said, I just value a dominant receiver more than a good tackle, which is the case of Wills. Wills hasn't been dominant necessarily either. I think Lamb has done a better job at being a receiver than Wills has as a tackle, even though Wills has been solid. Number 11, the Jets probably would feel thrilled with Chase Young, even though you're losing Mekhi Becton, who's good. But you're getting someone who's elite. And it's really one of those scenarios where, like, the past few picks, I'm like, like the Browns, they don't really need an edge rusher as much as they could use a receiver. Same thing with the Jaguars. So it's like there's a couple teams that maybe they could have gone with. Like, maybe the Cardinals could have gotten him over Andrew Thomas. But, Chase Young's really good. Chase Young maybe hasn't entirely lived up to the hype when he was drafted of being like, this next generational guy, but he's still been very good and has a ton of potential to continue to improve. Number 12, the Las Vegas Raiders, who anytime we do a redraft are always big winners because they had a lot of draft capital and didn't get a lot to show for it. They're getting Antoine Winfield instead of Henry Ruggs, who they actually drafted 12th overall. They could use a safety. I think him and Moorhead could now really complete that safety tandem, be a great safety tandem, and he's not going to jail, so better than Henry Ruggs there, so that would be a good pick. Number 13, so Tampa Bay has been picked clean with Wirfs and Antoine Winfield already taken off the board. They need to replace at least one of those guys, so they're going to replace Xavier McKinney, they're going to draft Xavier McKinney to replace Antoine Winfield, who Winfield's been better, but not by a ton. McKinney's really good, so the Giants feel great about him, and now the Buccaneers at least can limit the damage by getting a safety, pick 13. Number 14, let's have some fun with it. This is way earlier than I would realistically draft a running back, but Jonathan Taylor is not just a running back. He's been an elite back, which, listen, an elite halfback can still be worth a win. And that's a lot of value. That's worth a 14th overall pick. And imagine him in a 49ers offense that's already going to get him to the second level consistently, but now you can, let him do even more magic. That's a match made in heaven. They'd win every game. I'm convinced of it with Jonathan Taylor there. It's a scheme that doesn't seemingly need a running back to be successful, but wouldn't this just be fun? I mean, you got to do this. They drafted Javon Kinlaw in the real draft. I feel like Jonathan Taylor, a lot more fun. Number 15, so the Broncos drafted Jerry Jeudy, who I like and has some potential, but I think I like Brandon Ayuk a little better. So I'm going to keep the same position, but just go with a different player. I think Brandon Ayuk could also fit well with Russell Wilson, so I like that as well. The Atlanta Falcons are going Trayvon Diggs here, who I'm still so fascinated in as a prospect. I don't know if he's going to be great or not. I really don't. The Falcons lost A.J. Terrell, so now they need a new corner in this redraft. So he's someone who has great potential. And if you're a team like the Falcons who aren't that great, why not swing for the fences? So why not get someone like Diggs, who at his best can be an elite ball hawk, although at his worst can be the guy who was the only player in football last year to give up 1,000 receiving yards. The Cowboys at 17 here. So they've been picked clean a little bit as well. They lose CeeDee Lamb. So they're going to actually go corner Cameron Dantzler, who's been really good for the Vikings. So getting him, I think that could go a long way because I do feel like they could use another corner. They also lost Trayvon Diggs. So it's like, yeah, you could use someone else in the building. Again, I do feel like I would probably rather have a garbage receiving core than a garbage, coverage unit. And I don't think the receiving core would total garbage. You have at least Michael Gallup. Not great if you lose CeeDee Lamb, but I'm going to go Cameron Dantzler here. Number 18, how about this? The Miami Dolphins still get Tua. What a decision by them to not draft him early on. so that way they can go get him later in the draft. Great work by them. They get Tristan Wirfs and still end up with Tua. So worked out well for the Miami Dolphins. Maybe Tua fell a little bit later, but hey, still a mid-first round pick. There's no shame in that. So is Mac Jones, right? His other Alabama teammate. Number 19, so the Raiders. Again, Raiders love these redrafts. Raiders always going to have fun with the redrafts. They got Antoine Winfield. Now they're getting Mekhi Becton. Again, someone who they need offensive line help. Go get an offensive lineman. That would certainly help them more than Damon Arnett, who is also no longer a Raider. So yeah, this would make them feel better. Number 20, I'm going to go Jonah Jackson for the Jaguars. He's been a quality guard for the Lions. He made a Pro Bowl, although I don't know if he's quite a Pro Bowl level player, but he's still a quality guard. The Jaguars could use an offensive lineman, and really my logic behind this is you got to help out Trevor Lawrence. That should be the mindset with this redraft, so that's what I'd be focused on. They drafted K'Lavon Chaisson, who is not great, so they certainly would like a different move here. I think Jonah Jackson would be exactly that. Number 21, the Philadelphia Eagles get Jerry Jeudy here. Jerry Jeudy, who, again, maybe hasn't quite lived up to the hype yet, but still does some nice things. And, for the Eagles, I am of the belief, if you have good receivers, go out and get more. Wouldn't this just be fun? You have, just a completely loaded, wide receiving core altogether. Why not go out and get someone who, at the very least, would be an awesome number 3 and has potential to be an awesome number 1, when you compare that with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, who already are number 1s. This could be an elite receiving core, really help out your team, although now you don't have Jalen Hurts, so that's the other aspect is no quarterback. I guess Gardner Minshew has plenty of weapons now, at least. Number 22, Robert Hunt, currently of the Miami Dolphins here, who the Vikings just need offensive line help. This is a need pick here at 22, but I'm more willing to do a need pick one like I actually know who these players are at this point, as opposed to an actual draft where I don't really love drafting for need. Number 23, the Chargers going with Michael Pittman here. So also I forgot to mention, the Vikings had Justin Jefferson in the last pick, so they're bummed about that. Eagles not so bummed about missing on Jalen Reagor. The Chargers had Kenneth Murray. I think they'd rather have Michael Pittman, who I still feel like the Chargers could use a good number 3 option. They have okay guys, but Gerald Everett, how much do I feel comfortable in him being that number 3 option as a tight end? I'd rather have Michael Pittman. So I value that number 3 receiver a lot. Just getting a good number 3 could really help them. So give me Michael Pittman here. Number 24, the Saints going with Gabriel Davis. Just because, again, they have 3 options at wide receiver, but would it all work out? Will Chris Olave be a good rookie right away? Will Michael Thomas return to form? Will Jarvis Landry return to form? I'd rather just have another guy. Gabriel Davis has really showed flashes, and I think he would fit well in that scheme, which I'm assuming they're going to do the same scheme. Cesar Ruiz is who they drafted, but I'd rather have Gabriel Davis. Number 25, the 49ers could use a safety. Kyle Duggar's played well for the Patriots. Now, it's a very different scheme, so that's kind of the only reason that I'm a little bit concerned about this is, will he be able to fit this scheme? But I think he will, so I'll still have the 49ers get Kyle Duggar here because Brandon Ayuk is who they drafted, but he's no longer available, so Kyle Duggar will be the selection. Number 26, this feels kind of like a steal with Jedrick Wills. Packers could use an offensive lineman, and they could not draft a backup quarterback here. That might be the better selection. Don't draft Jordan Love. Instead, get Jedrick Wills. That would make you feel a lot better. At 27, the Seahawks could use a corner, certainly. So, L'Jarius Sneed, why not? He's played well for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been another one of the kind of underrated players who just sort of came up and ended up doing well, so he goes here. At 28, the Ravens get Derek Brown, who kind of falls a bit. Again, he was very hyped up, was 7th overall, and played fine. He's not a bad player whatsoever, but you are still, I think, waiting to see him break out a little bit more, which is why he fell to where he did. But he's still very good. He would fit that scheme very well, and the Ravens like guys like Derek Brown, so I think it would fit the scheme well. Number 29, even though it's not mock draft season anymore, you can't stop me from drafting edge rusher to the Titans. I just feel like they could use another guy. Harold Landry, I think there's some question marks about, it's sort of the one good season, and Bud Dupree wasn't great last year. So even if those guys both hit, you can still use Alex Highsmith as a number 3, and that would be a good, trio of edge rushers, because more than 2 edge rushers rush the passer. Your third edge rusher gets snaps. So that's not a bad scenario to have. I'd rather have Alex Highsmith here than Isaiah Wilson, who was one of the all-time draft busts, who didn't even play. So certainly anyone would be better than that. Number 30, the Miami Dolphins are going to go with Jalen Johnson, the corner for the Bears. They did go Noah Igbenogany in the actual draft, but in hindsight, maybe not the best selection. Jalen Johnson's not a star, but he's been solid for them, so I'd rather have Jalen Johnson here. For the Vikings, I am going Harrison Bryant. You have Irv Smith Jr., who's a tight end who, he's solid. He's coming off an injury, though, so you can also use multiple tight end sets. The Vikings will do that. So getting Harrison Bryant, who's, again, a quality tight end. Towards the end of this draft, we are kind of seeing some guys who maybe aren't stars, but are solid players and just kind of, more role players sometimes. But listen, at the end of the draft, that's not the worst case scenario. Finally, 32, the Chiefs get Chase Claypool, who I'm sure they would be very thrilled with if they got him. The receiving core is okay. But hey, Chase Claypool, someone who can win on the outside consistently. He would fit well with Mahomes, although it would be interesting, right? Because Claypool is kind of more, I feel like, more of a contested catch guy, whereas that's not really what Mahomes typically looks for. It's not what the Chiefs typically look for, but when you can get that kind of talent, I'd say you just go ahead and get that kind of talent. That's how I view that. So, yeah, that's my redraft. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.